We are going to learn how to create our own PyPi server using Amazon S3. There are a number of steps involved in this process, but it's still relatively painless and mostly straightforward. So we will go ahead and dive in. Right now, I am in PyCharm, and you'll see that this is the code that we've been working on. The main directory is called Data Science Helpers. That's also what I've called the package in setup.py. And you'll see we have a subdirectory called DS Helpers, and this is actually what gets imported in Python. So if we expand this, we'll see that we have our code here that we're actually wanting to use in aws.py and in the db.py module. And so again, ds.helpers is where all of the action is, and that is what we would actually import. So here on my screen, you'll see that I have a very simple index.html file, and that is going to go on S3. Again, very simple. All it is really a single line that links to a gzip file that we will create later on. And that gzip file includes everything we would need for our package. I'm going to go to terminal, and first I'm going to enter my virtual environment. I am now going to run a little line of code here that will create that gzip file that I just referenced. This is going to create our package distribution, and it's going to be located in a directory called dist. That's, again, our package distribution, which will have our gzip file, which is what we will put on S3. Setup.py, and we will do an ls to confirm, and yep, we see a directory called dist. Let's clear the screen. I'm now going to issue a line that will automatically pull out the package version from our code, and this could be really useful if we need to automate this process. Please note that I'm using the backtick here. I'm going to import DS helpers. And I'm going to give that a quick review to make sure there are no obvious typos. Doesn't look like it, so let's run this bad boy. And let's verify that we have pulled out our package version. And it appears we have done so. All right, so now we are going to use the AWS CLI to copy some files onto our AWS bucket. And then after this point, we will work with our bucket a little bit and get things set up properly on AWS. But first, I'm going to copy over this gzip file, which is really where all of the code and everything we need is for our library. All right, and here is where I'm going to reference that package version. All right, so I'm saying, all right, I want to copy this local file. Again, that's in the dist directory, and it's called Data Science Helpers, and then a dash, the package version, and then it's a gzip file. And now I need to tell the CLI where I want to put that on AWS. So I'm going to quickly get the name of my bucket here. It's just called Data Science Helpers. So I'll go back to the CLI here, and I'm just going to say, all right, I want this in Data Science Helpers. And I'm also going to put it in a subdirectory on AWS. And I'm just calling that subdirectory Data Science Helpers, this time with underscores instead of dashes. Just refreshing here to make sure that everything looks good, and we can see that, yep, we have a directory called Data Science Helpers, and we have the desired gzip file. Okay, so let's copy over a couple of additional files. So one that I will want is the index.html. That looks promising. I'll refresh. And we see index.html. And let's also copy over our README markdown file. And we should be in business. So I'm going to go ahead and deactivate my virtual environment, and I'm just going to cd out of this directory and clear the screen. Do a quick refresh here. And I'll see that, yep, I now have all 3 files in here that I should desire. Okay, so we are going to turn our S3 bucket into a static S3 website, and that will serve as our PyPi server. There are a couple of steps involved in this, but again, it's fairly straightforward, and we should be in business in just a few minutes. All right, so I'm going to go back. And in properties, I am going to say I want this to be a static website. And my index document is going to be called index.html. We're not done yet. We have a couple more steps here. So in permissions, I need to say that, yeah, we're going to turn off blocking all public access. And then I need to implement a bucket policy. So in this case, I'm just going to grant access to the entire internet to be able to download this package, but I could specifically whitelist my organization's IP addresses or my personal IP addresses, and that's how this would be private. And to get the bucket policy that we need, we can just go to AWS and copy this bad boy here. And don't worry, I'll include a link to this in the actual book. And I'll paste this guy. And here we're just going to basically open it up to everybody in the world. Policy has invalid resource. I forgot to actually use the ARN of my bucket. And it says this bucket has public access. That sounds a little bit scary, but again, that is exactly what we wanted in this case. And ideally, we would just put the IP addresses or the CIDR blocks in here that we only wanted to have access to this library, and that's how we would make it private and only for use by the parties that we intend to be able to use it. All right, so let's go ahead and check out our website. So if I go back to properties and static website hosting, I can click on this link and I'll say, not found. Well, it's not found because we actually put our code a little bit deeper in a more specific link. So if we go to the data science helpers path, we can see that, all right, data science helpers, that gzip file is there. So again, all I had to do was say, all right, this is actually in a folder, and that's how I was able to navigate to that specific location. All right, so we have this ready to install. So let's go ahead and install it on our local machine. So I'm back in terminal here, and I can't just run a pip install data science helpers because by default, pip looks for pypi.org. Well, our package isn't hosted there, so we have to tell it where to look. So there's a couple of additional flags that we need to add to it, and they're pretty simple, and it does make the command look a little bit verbose, but it's the price we have to pay for our own private repository. All right, so let's go ahead and get this bad boy installed. So I'm going to start with pip3 install, and I need to pass in the find links flag. And this is where I'm actually going to pass in the link. I'm passing in the full path, and that includes the specific route to data science helpers with the underscores. And I also need to say, all right, this is a trusted host. In this case, I'm going to remove that path. And I'm also going to remove the HTTP. So I'm just going to have datascience-helpers.s3-website-us-west-2.amazonaws.com. So here what we have right now is pretty instructive. So you can see, again, we're telling pip to look for the links in this location. And we're saying that, hey, this location is a trusted source. We actually don't have HTTPS turned on for this. But again, we're trusting this site. This is code that we have built, we have uploaded, and we don't think there's going to be anything malicious in here. And you could go through the process of using an SSL cert for this. I'll kind of leave that to you on your own. But for now, this does the trick for us. And then lastly, I'm going to say what I want to install. I want to install data science helpers, and I want version 0.0.1. All right, let's run this bad boy. And it has found our package, and it has downloaded. Successfully installed data science helpers 0.0.1. We can confirm this with pip3 show data science helpers. And boom, we see that it's there. We see the home page, we see the author, we see the dependencies that it required. So again, this is how you go through the process of setting up your own PyPi server on AWS S3. I'll include some more details in text below the video, but hopefully you found this video instructive. Again, I know there were a lot of steps involved, but being able to host and build your own package is really, really useful, and there's a lot of benefit to it. And again, with the bucket policy, you can lock down access to this package to only the IP addresses that you trust, more or less. So that's how you can make it. That's how you can make it private and make sure that nobody else in the world can get to your Python package. So that concludes this video, and I hope you found it useful.